Welcome to the Art of Badassery, where spiritual depth meets unapologetic power. I'm your host, Mahara Wayman, success alchemist and coach for high-achieving women who are done performing and ready to reclaim every part of themselves. Here, we dive into raw truths, bold mindset shifts, and of course, the inner alchemy of the Trinity transformation, your shadow queen, inner critic, and divine guide, all getting a seat at the damn table. This isn't personal development. This is personal liberation. So let's jump in. Welcome back to the Art of Badassery. I'm Mahara Wayman, and this is the podcast where we strip away the BS, speak the truth, and own every wild, wounded, and wise part of ourselves. Today is the second episode in my solo series, The Trinity Within, Conversations with My Power. 3 episodes, 3 sacred archetypes, your shadow queen, your inner critic, and your divine guide. Now, these aren't just poetic archetypes, like I mentioned in the previous episode. They're living, breathing forces inside you. And they're also the foundation of my upcoming 3-week mini mastermind called the Trinity Transformation. Okay, last week we met the shadow queen, my shadow queen, the fierce, fiery force that demands truth and sovereignty. And today we turn our gaze toward the inner critic. Now, the inner critic, my inner critic, she doesn't roar like my shadow queen. She's quieter, slippery, strategic even. She doesn't come in hot. She slides in sideways, calm and controlled. She shows up in the stillness when you're scrolling through someone else's highlight reel, for example, when you're about to hit publish on that post, when you're considering saying yes to something big. She whispers things that feel helpful, logical even. Maybe you should wait. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, Mahara. Don't forget what happened the last time you tried something like this. She wears the mask of being practical, cautious, and responsible. She might even sound like your mom, your old teacher, or that voice in your head that says, you just want to be sure that you're doing it right. But make no mistake, her words can hit hard. Are you resonating? She's not going to yell. She doesn't usually throw a fit, but she knows exactly where to aim at your confidence, at your creativity, at your sense of timing. She's the one who second guesses your yes, downplays your wins, and turns your boldest ideas into anxiety-inducing what ifs. And while it feels like she's holding a knife, sabotaging your joy, slicing through your self-worth, what she's really doing, she's just trying to keep you safe, honest to God. And that's what makes this such a mindfuck. The inner critic isn't evil. I have thought so for many years, but she really isn't. What she is scared. I know, right? She's the part of you that got hurt really badly once. Maybe it was a long time ago. And when that happened, she decided that it was her job to make sure that never, ever happens again. She believes that if you stay small, stay quiet, stay cautious, you won't get burned. But in protecting you from risk, she also inadvertently protects you from growth. And that's why we're talking about her today. And also, that's where the real damage happens, right? She limits your expansion under the guise of protecting your heart. So today, we're not just calling her out. We're going to get real curious. I'm all about curiosity, right? We are pulling back the curtain and figuring out who she is really. Where did she come from? And what is it she actually needs from us? Because the inner critic doesn't go away by being ignored. She softens when she's seen. So let's unmask her together. Hello, inner critic. Well, hello. Thanks for having me on the show. And I want you to know something, Mahara. It was never my intention to hurt you. Really, I'm on your side. I'm just trying to keep you safe. I'm glad that you called that out because it's true. Remember that time you were in a meeting? I think it was when you were first with Weight Watchers, and you raised up your hand and everyone looked at you like you'd grown a second head. Yeah, that time. Remember when you launched that offer and nobody signed up? Yeah, that time. It stung. And I knew that. I could see it. I could see it in you. And truly, I'm just here to make sure you don't feel that way again. I don't want you to feel that way again. So no, I'm not sabotaging you. I'm just reminding you what happens when you get too confident, when you move too fast, when you forget your place, when you just try to be more than what you are right now. Because I don't want you to hurt. I am the one that slows you down. I admit it. I am the one that double checks all of the details, and I am the one that keeps your ego in check because it's needed. You call it doubt, I call it protection. I mean, someone's got to watch out for you, right? Because if I don't, you're going to make a fool of yourself again, right? You'll fail publicly. That doesn't feel good. And you'll also risk being rejected, misunderstood, being too much, or being not enough. So, yeah, I am harsh sometimes, but that's only because I remember what happened before. And it was awful. And I don't ever want you to feel that pain again. Okay, does this sound familiar, guys? Can you relate to what my inner critic is saying? Man, oh man, it's so familiar to me as well. And that's the thing about the inner critic. She doesn't, show up with horns and fangs. No, she shows up like a friend, like a helper. She makes it sound like she's got your best interest at heart, like she's just trying to keep you grounded, realistic, or prepared. But here's the truth. She's not your protector. She's your limiter. Is that even a word? Well, I've called it a word now. She's the gatekeeper of every version of you that stayed small. She's the part of you that hits the brakes just when things are getting good, right? No, don't go there. Now, I'm not saying she's evil. And this isn't about villainizing her, but we need to get real. Her voice, it's usually rooted in fear if you pay close attention. Fear of being judged, fear of being seen, fear of getting it wrong. And that fear, guys, it didn't come out of nowhere. That voice got built over time. Every time you raised your hand and you were shut down, every time you were told, be quiet, don't brag, that's not how nice girls do it. Every time someone told you were too loud, too much, or not enough, she took notes, right? She started cataloging pain like a little librarian of disappointment. She knows every time that you had your heart or your soul crushed, right? And now she's actually built an entire system in your mind based on what might go wrong. So today we're going to take a look at where she came from, and more importantly, what you get back when you stop letting her run the show. Let's go. Okay, I want to talk about, as I said, where this voice actually comes from. As I said earlier, your inner critic doesn't just show up out of nowhere. She's born from old wounds, outdated rules, and other people's baggage that got handed to you like it was gospel. She's a mashup, actually, of everything you were told growing up by your teachers, by your parents, maybe by your religion, by pop culture. She's shaped by the time someone laughed when you tried something new. She's built from those offhand comments that landed like knives and stayed with you for years. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? There are things in my past I remember specifically, and we're going back, I don't know, 40 odd years. I can feel it like a clutch in my stomach. Yeah. She echoes the stuff that we have heard so many times. We started believing it. Stuff like, who do you think you are? You're not ready. Don't draw attention to yourself. Tone it down. Hush. That's not very ladylike. You're not really qualified to do this. You know that, right? Sometimes she comes wrapped in concern. She may sound like, "Oh, are you sure you want to wear that? Are you really going to charge that? Maybe now's not the right time." Sometimes she's cruel. Sometimes she's subtle, but the effect is still the same. Over time, those voices become your soundtrack. They play in the background of your life like elevator music from hell. And typically they're very quiet, so quiet that you don't always notice them, but they are loud enough to affect everything. How you show up, what you say yes to, what you talk yourself out of, how you shrink before you even begin. But here's the truth that I want to share with you today. You are not your inner critic. She's a part of you, absolutely, but she's not the whole of you. She's a voice inside you, but she is not your truth unless you make it so, right? She's just a pattern, a protection mechanism, but she is not your power, again, unless you give it to her. When you start to recognize her, not as fact, but as a reaction, you get to make a different choice. You get to reclaim the mic, take it back. Okay, let's talk about what that can look like. So, inner critic, what happens when we actually confront you, when we stop accepting your word as truth, when we start listening closely and realize, wait a second, that's actually not me speaking? Well, says inner critic, you begin to discern my voice from our true wisdom. You start to question me and all of my narratives. You challenge the shoulds and the musts that I've imposed on you for years. And in doing that, we reclaim our agency. And if I'm honest, yep, I'm going to be honest, I don't actually like that. When you start doing that, it gets harder for me to keep control. You start noticing when I'm using fear to steer the ship. You pause before believing every story I spin. You ask, is this actually true? Or is this helping me grow? And most of the time, it's not. And I have to admit that. It's very disorienting for me because my whole job is based on keeping you safe by keeping you small. So when you stop automatically obeying, I kind of panic a little, if I'm honest. But here's the thing. Deep down, I know you're right. I know I've been overdoing it. I know I've been trying to protect you from pain. But in the process, what I've actually done is kept you from joy. And I'm sorry. I've kept you from expansion. And I'm sorry. From the kind of risks that lead to a fuller, richer life. And I'm sorry. And when you confront me, not with anger, but with awareness, I actually soften. I kind of stop screaming in my head and I start trusting you. Because if you're grounded in truth, maybe I don't need to be in charge anymore. Maybe I can, rest. Okay, I think we need to pause here. I want to give you a chance to really sit with this because this is where the shift starts. So go grab your journal, just pause the podcast if you need to. You can open up a notes app or just close your eyes and feel into this moment. Okay. What is a recurring criticism you hear in your own head? It might sound like you're too loud. You always mess this up. You're not disciplined enough. You're so far behind. And whatever it is, say it out loud. Let yourself actually hear the complete sentence. That's her, your inner critic, doing her thing. Now ask yourself, whose voice does it remind you of? Is it your mom, a coach, a teacher from childhood who maybe embarrassed you in front of the class? Because chances are it didn't start with you. Okay, now finally, ask yourself, how does it hold you back? Where are you hesitating, hiding, or shrinking because of that voice? Let yourself name it. Not with shame, though. This is important. Or with anger, but with curiosity, right? This is what healing looks like, ladies. Not pushing the voice away, but getting close enough to understand it. You can't rewrite the story if you don't know who's holding the pen, right? So go ahead, acknowledge it, name it, and then challenge it. Because just because it's familiar doesn't mean it's true, right? You can feel it, hear it, but it doesn't make it fact. So here is what we do in the second week of my Trinity Transformation Mini Mastermind. We go deep into the realm of the inner critic, not just talking about her, but dissecting her. We learn to identify her patterns, how she sounds when she shows up, and what she's really trying to protect you from. Like maybe she gets loud right after a win. You post something vulnerable and bam, she's there whispering, who do you think you are? Right? Or maybe she pipes up before you even try something new, before you make that sales call, before you go on the date, before the yes. We learn to recognize those moments, not as red flags, but as sacred invitations. We also unpack her origin story because no inner critic shows up out of nowhere. There's always a reason. She is built from our experiences, from moments when we felt shamed or unsafe or unseen. So we track those moments, not to stay stuck in the past, but to free ourselves from it. It's a really important distinction. And then we take her actual messages that, you're not good enough, you always mess this up, you'll never be ready message, and we transform them. Not with fake positivity, though, but with truth, right? We're going to get real curious about the truth, real, grounded, embodied truths that actually speak to who you're becoming, because it isn't about silencing her, right? Because she's not going anywhere. I just want you to know that. This isn't about killing her off or anything. It's actually about integrating her, right? I'm a success alchemist. I help you integrate her. And it's about knowing when she's speaking and choosing on purpose not to let her run the show. So you can hear her. Thanks for your concern. I don't need that today, right? Because when you understand the inner critic, you get access to something bigger, truthfully. You get to hear a different voice, one that's been underneath her all along. Your own voice. Yeah, you got it. The one that says, I trust myself. I don't need permission. I was born for this. That voice, that's the one we amplify in week 2. And it's a game changer. Okay, as we wrap up today, I want you to remember the inner critic thrives in silence and secrecy. But when we bring her out into the light, we actually diminish her power. We reclaim our narrative and we step into our truth. And who the hell doesn't want that? Okay, next week, we meet your divine guide. You're also going to meet my divine guide. That's the inner compass that leads you to your highest self. Today, if this episode resonated with you, if you feel seen and understood, my invitation to you is to join me and others in the Trinity Transformation Mini Mastermind. 3 weeks, 3 sacred workshops, 1 transformative journey. The link will be in the show notes. Until next time, rise, reclaim, reign. Here's to you. If this episode lit a fire in your soul or smacked you with some needed truth, don't keep it to yourself. Like, comment, and share it with another badass who's ready to rise. And if you're done second-guessing your intuition and want some clarity that cuts through the noise, book your free intuitive strategy reading with me now. No fluff, I promise, no BS, just soul-deep insight to help you move forward with power. The link is in the show notes. Until next time, stay bold, stay brilliant, and for the love of God, stay badass.